Hi, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Kuf Tesvav, I believe. We're discussing basically Leil Seder. We discussed the case of, in terms of making, I guess, a separate bracha, I think, on matzah, on karpas and maror. In the end, we said the halacha was like Rav Chizda, right? I guess who others did like him, and Rav Chizda was the one who said you make a brei pri adama. Then later on, when you eat the maror, you make a chilas maror, right? Or you make on the mitzvah of maror, and then then you don't make it as a separate bracha. So that's what we said over there. Amar Ravina, right? And then he said the best way to do is to basically find another thing, not the same thing you're eating maror, and therefore there's no suffix. One is, let's say, potato, and the other one is your lettuce, and therefore no suffix brachas. Amar Ravina. Yeah, so we are, I don't know, let's say 7 lines from the top on Kuf Tesvav, Amar Aleph, Meseches Pesachim. So Amar Ravina, Amar Li, Rav Misharshia, Braid, Rav Nasan, Hachi Amar Hillel. This is what Hillel said, Mishmeid the Gemara. Right? Hillel, the name of the Gemara, obviously this is not referring to Hillel from Hillel Zakin, base Hillel. This is referring to many generations later, the Amora Hillel. So he said, in the name of the Gemara, his tradition, Lo Nichrach Inish Matzah Mara Bahadi Adadi V'Nichul. A person should not go ahead and eat matzah and maror together. He should go ahead and eat them at the same time. Why is that? Matzah b'zman is a deraisa, because matzah b'zman is a deraisa. Maror derabanan, and the maror is only a derabanan because there's no the current pesach. But asi maror derabanan vatali matzah deraisa, and comes the maror, right? And then the taste, the flavor of the maror, right, basically will be mavatal, will nullify the taste of the matzah, and therefore you're having a derabanan basically nullify the taste of the deraisa, right? And therefore you shouldn't go ahead and do it because you're not going to be able to taste the matzah. And even according to the opinion who hold that a mitzvah is not mavato one another. So there's hani mili deraisa but deraisa. That's only referring to they're both deraisas, so the flavor of one will not be mavato the other, or derabanan, but derabanan, or the two derabanans of one another about deraisa but derabanan. But when you have the matzah's deraisa and the taste of the mara, which is derabanan, asi derabanan vatale deraisa. So the flavor of the maror, which is only derabanan, which will be discussed later on, will come and be mavatal the flavor of the matzah, which is deraisa. So therefore, you shouldn't go ahead and eat them together. And man tana deshmias le mitzvahs ein mevatel zutzu. And who is the one who says that the mitzvahs are now mevatel one another? And if you do it simultaneously, even though one has the strong flavor and the other one does not, it is okay. So that's Hillel. That's referring to Hillel from Beis Hillel. The tiny we learn a rice. Amar olav al Hillel. They said about Hillel shaya karchan b'vasachas. Hillel used to go ahead and eat. What do you know? He ate a Hillel sandwich, right? He used to go ahead and eat them together. B'vasachas va'oichlan. Shnamar, as the pasuk says, al matzah samrim yachlu. Right. So you learn from the pasuk al matzah samrim yachlu. They go ahead and eat the maror with the matzah simultaneously. Basically, he eat the two of them together. And Amar Rabbi Yechanan says Rabbi Yechanan chokin olav chaverav al Hillel. However, the other Tanaim, the Rabbanan, they argued on Hillel, says you don't eat them together. Did Tanya in Brisa? So the Brisa says the first attempt of the correct lashon of the Brisa is you might think you go ahead and you wrap them together and you eat them the way that Hillel ate them together. Tamalaymer. Therefore, it says al matzah samrim yachlu, right? Al matzah mar yachlu. You should eat it. Yachlu afilu zev. Even they should be separately, right? You should even, according to this brisa, eat them separately, right? Have the matzah separate and then have the maror separate and not be moved out to one another. So Maskeh Ravashi doesn't understand the lashon of this brisa. Ihachi mayafilu. What does it mean? Al matzah samarim yachlu afilu zev. Right? Even. Now it sounds like the other eating together is better, but even separately. So why would it be a filu? If you hold that the eating them together is no good, right? It shouldn't say a filu. It should say you should only eat it that way, right? So rather the brisa, this is really what should say. You might think that you have not fulfilled your obligation unless you go ahead and eat them together. And even the way that Hillel ate it. Therefore it says, therefore it says, matzah and more you shall eat them. Each one should be eaten separately. So therefore they hold each one should be separately. And Hillel said each one, they should be eaten together, all right, to fulfill the pasuk. And they hashed it, and now that it doesn't say the halacha is like Hillel, or they eat them together, or like the Rabbanan who says you have to eat them separately. So first you make a bracha al chilas matzah, and then you eat your kazayis matzah. And then you go ahead and you make your bracha on maror, and then you eat your maror. And then you go ahead and eat them together without a bracha, right? You don't make a bracha al chilas matzah anymore. You don't make a bracha al achilas maror anymore because you already fulfilled those obligations. Then you eat it together. Zeichel mikdash kehillel, right? Remembrance of the mikdash, like Hillel. Like that Hillel used to do is that when the base of mikdash was kayim. Fine. New case. So 2 lines from the bottom. Omar Rebbe Elazar, Omar Rav Oishia, Kol shetivlu b'mashke tzarich netilas yadayim. Anything that gets dipped in a liquid requires netilas yadayim. Now, there's a couple of gezeras, the Rabbanan, they were instituted. One is that yadayim are shnuyos, right? The hands are considered to be shnuyos latuma. That there's different levels of tuma. There's avatuma, then the rishon, sheni, so on and so forth. And then those are by chulin. When it comes to truma, there's even a 3rd level called a shlishi, right? And when it comes to hektish, there's even a 4th level, right? So when it comes to truma, so they were geyser on the yadayim on hands because people were concerned that people were not careful about washing their hands before eating truma. They would be metame truma. So therefore, the Rabbanan made a decree that hands are considered to be like shnuyos, right? Like the 2nd level, right? And therefore, if they would touch chulin, if they would touch truma, they would become shlishi l'tuma, and therefore they become tummy. So therefore, everyone always had to wash their hands prior to truma. So yadayim, hands were shnuyos. That was one halacha. Another halacha is also their machmir, that when your hands are shnuyos, right, if it goes ahead and touches liquid, it makes that a rishon l'tuma, and therefore, if that rishon would go ahead and be metame other truma. So therefore, a person is going to go ahead and dip, right? Because their hands would go ahead and they're shnuyos, and they would go ahead and be metame any liquid that they dip their hands. They're dipping because when you dip, your hands would, get into a dip. Because if I go ahead and I take a potato and completely submerge it into water, right? So my hands will be making contact with the water, and therefore it'll be matami the water. So therefore, they said anybody who's dipping b'mashket tzarich netilas yadayim. Therefore, you have to go ahead and wash your hands, and therefore your hands are they're no longer shnuyos. They're not 2nd degree of tuma. Therefore, they are tahor because you went ahead and you washed your hands. So therefore, always wash your hands because therefore, when it makes contact with the dip, with the liquid of the dip, it will not be matami because your hands are now tahor from netilas yadayim. And Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, it must be Shema Mina. Let's learn from here. Hi chasa, right? This lettuce that we're dipping, right? Let's say the moror tzarich, top of the page. Tzarich l'shkuye b'charoises, right? Mishum kappa. All right, you go ahead. It must go ahead and fully dip right into the dip, right into the charoses, right? Why? Because like I mentioned before, right? In other words, if I would just go ahead and dip the edge, right? I have a long stalk and I only dip the edge in it. So then I'm not in contact with the dip. So why would I need to wash my hands, right? It must be that I have to put it all the way in. If I put it all the way in, then my hands are making contact with the water. And Mishum Kappa. We'll go with the first shot of the Rashbam, is some sort of either some sort of acidic something that's upon the raw vegetables, which could be dangerous to a person, right? Can cause them discomfort, and therefore you go ahead and basically the strength of the charoses will sort of kill, right? This kappa. So you have to. So let's learn from here. When you have to go ahead and fully submerge it. If you think that you don't have to go ahead and dip it all the way, why would you have to go ahead and do netilas yadayim? He's not touching the water, the charoses, right? This liquid. Maybe you can say, really, you don't have to dip it all in. So, what about the kappa, right? What about this this acidic part of sap that's on the lettuce? The kappa merecha mayas, and maybe just from the fumes, from the smell when it gets close, that will kill whatever kappa is on there. So therefore, maybe you don't have to dip it all the way. So if that's the case, why did you go ahead and wash your hands? So do a mashkile, right? Maybe it's not, you don't have to dip it all the way, but maybe some people might dip it all the way and they might make contact. And since they might make contact, therefore we'll say, go ahead and wash your hands before. The Amar Rav Papa, and Rav Papa says, Leinishi inish marar b'charoises. A person should not go ahead and have his marar soak in the charoses. Dilma agav chali the tav mavatale marar. Right? Perhaps from the from the soaking of it, or from all the charoses that's on the marar, perhaps it will be mevatel. It will nullify, right, the taste of the marar. Ubeina and tamar v'leka. Right, and you require the taste, the flavor of the marar, and you won't have it because it'll be out with the charoses. Right, some people take a little piece of lettuce and they take a huge scoop of the charoses, and it tastes really yummy. Right, that marar. So the Gemara is saying not like that. Right, the halacha is also not like that. Right, a person should not have a big helping of charoses. You get your apples and your whatever else is on there. I don't even know. Right, nuts, whatever is on there. That's what's it called? Whatever they put out. I know there's apples in there, right? So, anyways, the charoses that's made. So obviously that shouldn't outdo the flavor of the marar. There should be the bitterness. Fine. So Adabre Rav Chizda LeRavna Ukva v'Darish. So Rav Chizda allowed Ravna Ukva to go ahead and darish and go, hey, you can go ahead and give a drasha. Tonight's your turn. So what he got out there and he says, Nato Yadav B'Tiva Rishon. You go ahead, you wash your hands for the first dipping for karpas, and then you wash your hands for the second dipping, which is marar, or also by Netilas Yadayim for let's say for marar, second time you dip, right? Not including the matzah, right? So Amar Rabbanan Kamei Rav Papa. So the Rabbanan said before Rav Papa, so halbi alma itamar. This must be said in general for a general meal. If you think we're talking about now on Leil Seder, why do you have to go ahead and wash your hands a second time? How much you already washed your hands the first time, right? So it doesn't make sense, right? If I know I'm dipping twice, so I wash my hands once in the beginning, and then I can go ahead and dip later on, an hour later. What's the big deal? So Rav Papa, so he says, no, Adrabah, Fakert, opposite. Maybe it was only said Leil Seder, right? If you think of talking about a regular night or even a Shabbos, whatever, right? Why are you dipping twice, right? No one dips twice. You only dip once. So Elamai, what are you going to say? Wait, you're talking about Leil Seder. So Tias Adayim Trezimni Lamali, once again, why didn't Tias Adayim twice? You already washed your hands once. So why do you need to do it a second time? So, and you're going to do it a second time, right? So if you know that, so therefore it's no problem. So Amri Kavan, the boy Lememer, I got us of a Helilo, Duma Sucha Sikha Daite Vinaga. Perhaps since a person has to go ahead and say the Agada, the story of the Tzis Mitzrayim, and to say Hallel, right? So all these things will create a Hesach Hadas. His mind will forget that he washed his hands, and perhaps he'll touch things that will make it tamei. And therefore, since there's a long time in between the first dipping and the second dipping, that's the reason why even Leil Seder, you would need to go ahead, and even though from the outset you're dipping twice, nevertheless you have to go ahead and wash your hands twice. Fine. Next case, smack in the middle of the page of Kuf Tezvav Amud Beis. Omar Rava says Rava. Bola matzah yatza. All right, famous sugya. Person goes ahead and he swallows matzah. He takes, right? Not some people are mocked to chew it all together, right? Person takes matzah, doesn't chew it, right? Swallows it, right? He swallows it as kazayis yatza. He has fulfilled his obligation. Why says because Rashi says because this is considered to be achila, and this is called achilas matzah because he swallowed it. Swallowing is the achila, and therefore he swallowed it as good. Bola maror, if he goes ahead and he swallows maror, right, without chewing, lo yatza, he has not fulfilled his obligation. because as the Rashbam says, right? Because Devin and Tamar Veleka, right? You need the flavor of the morar, and you don't get that by just swallowing. If you just swallow, you don't taste it. So by moror, there seems to be an aspect of the taste, right? When it comes to matzah, it doesn't necessarily need to have the taste, right? So therefore, if you swallow matzah on its own, fill the obligation. You swallow moror on its own, lo yatsa. Now, bola matzah moror, if you go ahead and you swallow them together, right? But let's say you go ahead and you wrap, or let's say you have your matzah and moror together, you wrap your matzah and your moror and you swallow it. So yidei matzah yatsa. Nevertheless, even though it's within the other food of the maror, that's still considered to be eating because, right, there's nothing separating, right, your throat and that which you're swallowing. It's only food, and since maror is food, so therefore food is not considered to be some sort of hefsek between the matzah and your throat, and therefore matzah you have fulfilled. Yidei maror lo yatsa. Once again, maror you have not fulfilled. Why? Because you didn't have the flavor of the maror. And karcha b'sif, let's say you go ahead and you wrap it in something which is not food, right? Not necessarily food. You swallow it. Then you have not fulfilled your obligation because that which went down your throat didn't really, it wasn't food down your throat. You basically put it inside a pill, right? Or something like that. And you swallowed the pill, right? Or you swallowed something. And so therefore you put in paper, whatever it is. And that's not considered to be food. And therefore that matzah is not considered to be achila. That did not considered to be in your throat. That was the Gemara there. And Omar Rav Shimi Barashi, matzah lifnei kol echad v'echad, right? You put the matzahs in front of each and every person, moror lifnei kol echad v'echad, and moror in front of everyone, v'charoses lifnei kol echad v'echad, and charoses, right? And the charoses you put in front of everyone, ve'ein oiknes hashulchan ella lifnei mi she'omer haggadah. And so they used to go ahead and everyone had their own sort of small personal table. And so everyone would have their own table with these items there with the matzah, the moror, the charoses, and they would only remove the table. We'll soon see why. They'll remove the table only before the person who said the Haggadah. One person, the Charis, said the Haggadah on behalf of everybody else, and they would move his, I don't know what you call it, Seder plate, but they would move his matzah and the moror and his charoses from in front of him. And Rav Huna Amar, Kulu nami lifnei mi she'omer Haggadah. Right? No, you put these things only by the one who's, you only have one. By the person, everyone doesn't get their own matzah, moror, and charoses. Only the person who says the Haggadah, right? The head of the table, he's the one who gets these things in front of these items in front of him. And then you remove it from him. The Hilchasa is like Rav Huna, right? They only necessarily need one sort of this Seder plate. And Lama Ikrin and Esa Shulchan. And why did they go ahead and remove the table? Why did they go ahead and remove the Seder plate, right? As we do it. So, in order that the children will be, puzzled as, hey, we're about to eat. Why'd you remove the food, the table, right? What's going on here? In order that the children will go ahead and ask. That's the reason why the Seder plate is removed in front of the Baal Haggadah. And Abaya Yosef Kamei Derova, Abaya was once sitting in front of Rabbah and Chazidika Madli Tacham Makme, and he saw that he's removing the table from him. He said to him, Adayin like Kachlinen and also Kamakre Tachami Kaman. We haven't even eaten yet, and you're removing the table. Samarle, Rabbah says Rabbah Patrasan Milamar Manishtana, right? You basically have Patras from saying Manishtana, right? You basically, your question is, hey, why are you moving this table? Why is tonight different? That is basically the essence of the Manishtana. Fine. 4 lines from the bottom. Omar Shmuel Lechem Oni. It says over there, Lechem Oni. The pasuk. Right, it says over there, right? Lo yisayich lo love chametz shivas yamim teicha olav matzos lechem Oni. Right, calls it Lechem Oni. What's Lechem Oni? So Lechem Shainim olav dvarim. So it's the bread that they answer many things. And this is the bread that we talk about, that we answer all the questions as to why the night is different. And Tanya Mehachis, we learn Lechem Oni. So another Bryce says Farish, Lechem Oni is Lechem Sha'ini Alav Dvarim, is the bread that we answer things on it, i.e. we have the matzah out, then we answer, we say, why is this night different than other nights? And Dvarim Harbe, we say many things. And Davar Acher, Lechem Oni, it says Ani Ksiv, right? It says without the Vav. Like a poor person. So ma'ani shidarka b'prusa, just like an ani, his way is only to eat like broken pieces. So afkan, so to over here, let's say afkan b'prusa. So to over here, it's also in pieces. And davar echad, ma'darchan shel ani, just like what is the way of the ani. Humasik v'ishta oifa. So he goes in, he heats up the oven, and once it's ready, so he doesn't waste any firewood. His wife is baking and kneading and getting it ready, and she puts it in. Afkan nami. So over here, humasik v'ishta oifa. So to over here, right? He does the fire, and she puts it in immediately. So there is no wasting of time. There is no time basically for it to rise, because that's how poor people go ahead and eat. We'll just do one more little section of two dots. So afish and charosas mitzvah, you say you bring out the charosas, even though charosas is not a mitzvah. So if you have a mitzvah, why do you bring it out? If you have a mitzvah, mishum ma'isila. So why do you bring it out? So Ravami mishum kappa, we bring it out because of this kappa, right? Because of this acidic sap or whatever it is on the lettuce. We bring it out in order to go ahead and basically it kills it. And Amar Ravasi says, Ravasi kappa, if a person has some sort of kappa, basically ate it, he didn't wash it off, or he didn't have charosas in it, and now he has this discomfort from this kappa. What does he do from lettuce? So he eats a chama. He has a radish and kappa the chama. If he has, let's say, the kappa from the chama, this acidic, right, sap from the radish, what does he eat? Karti, he eats a leek, and kappa to karti. And if he gets the kappa from eating a raw leek without washing it off, chamime, he drinks hot water afterwards, and kappa to kulu chamime, and actually all of them he could drink hot water afterwards. And meanwhile, right, while I guess he's heating up the water in order to make himself feel better after swallowing this kappa, what should he say? He should say kappa de charina lach lushav benasacha ulasamne kalascha. Right? It says kappa. Right. I recognize you and your 7 daughters and your 8 kalas and your 8 daughter-in-laws. Right? What does that mean? Not sure, but that's what one would say in order to go ahead and I guess remove whatever kappa. Yes. All right. We'll stop here. The 2 dots. Shkayach, everybody. Tamar Mitzvah. We'll continue from here. Everyone have a wonderful day and a happy birthday once again to
Rebbe.